Former Vols quarterback Jonathan Crompton here with us on 104.5 The Zone. We're reacting to the Vols' loss over the weekend to Arkansas on the road. I want to go back to the lack of earned trust there, Cromp.
Yeah.
Because that, I think, is an important note from a player who understands the significance of the position, but not just the position at this specific university where there are expectations regardless of whether you've earned them or not. And whether as a player, I don't know if you can speak to this from personal experience, but how much you feel that as a player when you know that you don't quite have your coach's buy-in yet, and whether there is a self-awareness or not to have that recognition. Because that can be, I would imagine, a tough thing for an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old to wrap their head around.
Yeah, I mean, it's never going to be easy. It's kind of hard to say in the sense of, because once again, I'm not in the building. I'm just going off what I see from offensive schematics and how plays are called. And I go back to, and I hate to bring up the past because I know everybody loves to do that. Like, we like to compare, this team would beat this team, blah, blah, blah. I don't like doing that. But in 22, you look at the offensive production, you look at the offensive explosiveness. Yes, we had Jalen Hyatt who ran a 4.340. I get it. But you look at the production in the run game. You look at the production in the quarterback run game. You look at the production in scrambling and keeping plays alive. More quote unquote on rhythm throws, even though in our offense there's not really rhythm throws. You know what I mean? We've not had that since 22. And I credit this to him being young within the game of football. I think Heupel is trying to protect him, but trying to protect can hinder your team, if that makes sense. Hendon came in from Virginia Tech having played 22 or 25 college games under his belt. That's a lot more than 4, so I do think that has something to do with it. But yeah, as the player, you've got to feel, man, I can make that throw, or I can make that read, or why don't we call this, or blah, blah, blah. Like, that's all. You're human. That's going to get in the back of your mind. I don't know if it is in Nico's mind, because he does seem level-headed. But the other night, there were some throws that you go, what was that? Like, especially late in the fourth, we run what's called a fallout route, a 14-yard stop, and then he literally falls away to the sideline, hence the word fallout. He's been accurate with those pretty much all year. Defender, corner's off, outside linebacker is underneath, but kind of buzz into the flat, but nothing a Division I quarterback can't make. And he blatantly threw it 4 yards way too wide. Those things that I look at to go, either he's not comfortable in the situation fully, or there's just something there. Now, granted, I do think we'll correct that at home this week, because we got 4 straight at home, and we all know what the next 2 weeks are. I mean, it's just what it is. So we do got to get something corrected, and I like what Heupel said. We got to get better. Point blank. We just got to be better.
At JCromp8 is where you can follow him. Jonathan Crompton here with us, breaking down the Vols' loss to Arkansas, and specifically Nico Iamaleava. The offense, though, Cromp, I struggle with it at times. Now, when everything's rolling and they've got their ground game going and everything is facilitated off their ability to run, then of course it's tough to have quarrels with it. But when they get in situations like this and against better quality opponents, I again, play calling is not what I'm criticizing here. I just don't know if there is a willingness to move away from what Josh Heupel is most comfortable with within the scope of the offense.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, Arkansas said it last week. Oklahoma didn't have to say it. Oklahoma gave the blueprint to Arkansas. Arkansas took advantage of it, and now both teams are given the blueprint on how to beat us in our pass game. Our pass game is predicated on big plays. Just what it is. We're a run-first football team. We have yet to throw for over 250 yards in a game. We're 5 games in. So that's the stuff that I have an issue with. Play off man, to that off inside man, rob with the safeties, and disguise two man and play one robber, and you're going to beat our defense, or our offense, if we're not running the football. So our O-line's got to get better in the run game. But the negative is we don't put our O-line in a great position because we run inside zone, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing that between that and the RPO screens and just it's a level of predictability that is, you know, when it works great, but when you've given away the answers to the test so many times, the defensive coordinators in this league are paid to figure these things out too, and I feel like we've seen that since they've gotten into SEC play. You can do it against Kent State, you can do it against Chat and NC State, but now between Oklahoma, who was an excellent defense, and Arkansas, who is a quality defense, this is something to keep an eye on in particular. And it's not lost on me. We were talking about this in the first hour, Crump. The job that Clark Lee and his staff, Jerry Kill, did with Vanderbilt, out-scheming Alabama and using the strengths of their team to their advantage and adapting in real time versus what the Vols did, that has to be particularly frustrating.
Yeah, well, I asked a hypothetical question after the game the other night because why not? I like to get people a little fired up, let them have something to talk about. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're supposed to do. With the way that Vandy played and the way that, correct me if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, is it Pavia?
Pavia.
Okay. As Tennessee fans, would you rather have Pavia or Nico with the grit that he plays with? And I'm not saying Nico's bad. That's not my issue. But I did state after the game, Nico's got to be less afraid in the run game. If you watch the game, as soon as he's about to get hit, it's like he puts his body in reverse.
Yeah. I'm
not saying go in there like a torpedo and it's 4th and goal and you're supposed to be the fridge back in the 80s and try to truck people. That's not what I'm saying. But you've got to eventually understand you're 6'6", 215. You're not a small human being either. The way that Pavia played and the way that Vandy played, 4th and 1. And if you watch the end zone copy of that game, there was zero threat of run. That was the worst play fake ever. Like, it was a full-blown, we're going double move to the field on a drag and go because we don't think you're better than us. When are we going to, let's call it like it is. When are we going to let our nuts drop like that?
That's exactly what Vols fans are saying because Pavia all but did the Marshawn Lynch.
It is what it is.
You know, Pavia all but did the Marshawn Lynch where he's diving into the end zone and grabbing him. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is something to that at the position.
I also go with when are we just going to say my dude is better than your dude? All right. Alabama playing Georgia. What'd they do? They're down by 3 or something like that, whatever it was late. And they say, my 17-year-old is better than your All-American. Go get a double coverage touchdown. Last week at Vandy, they're down. They need to play. What do? The exact same play, but now to the other side of the field going left now. And they say, my 17-year-old is better than your double-covered SEC safeties. Touchdown. At a certain point, when do we offensively start saying that? Like metaphorically going, my dude's better than you. Hope you can prove it.
At JCrump8 is where you can follow him. A Florida week, of course, on the horizon. Florida getting a much-needed win, and Billy Napier's team looking significantly better than they have in weeks past. Tennessee is favored. They are they should be the better football team. They were not on Saturday night. But this is a game that Billy Napier has to have circled because this could be a job saver for a guy who's in very, significant jeopardy as a head coach.
No, 100%. They come into Neyland and beat us, he's got his job next year. Just what it is, because he can say, hey, I'm turning it around. Tennessee's still a top 10 team, blah, blah, blah. That's his bargaining chip. He comes into Neyland and beats us, he has a job. We take care of our business and play the way that we're supposed to play, he probably doesn't.
From a matchup standpoint, is there anything in particular you're looking for this week for them to capitalize on beyond what we've covered here?
If I'm them, I'm not playing Mertz. I'm playing Lagway because what has historically been our downfall defensively? Running quarterback. Anytime we play a scrambling quarterback at all, we struggle defensively. Hence Arkansas, right? So obviously Mertz is going to play, but I'm saying like there would be a lot of the true freshman Lagway on the field if I'm Florida, because that's a matchup for them. So I expect to see that a lot. So, we got to make sure our defensive ends, our outside linebackers, somebody's got to have a spy somewhere when he's in. You know what I mean? So we can contain him and not let him get out of the pocket and extend a play. Because that's where, as any defense, that's where you're going to get hurt. That's where you're going to get the unwarranted pass interference, downfield defensive holding. Something that shouldn't typically happen is when they can extend the play. So that's to me the biggest matchup this weekend is how much do they play the freshman quarterback that can get out and move a little bit better than Mertz can? And if so, how well do we contain him?
He is Jonathan Crompton, former Vols quarterback. He's also the head coach at Tuscola High School, where he's repping right now. Cromp, It's great to see you, buddy. I appreciate you making us smarter, and we got to do it again soon. It's been too long.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate it.
That's the main man, Jonathan Crompton, with us on 104.5 The Zone. We'll react to what he had to say. We'll take your last call for phone calls. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone.